Well, here we are, thoughts from the office. Redneck's Pride outdoors. Um, got a video that I want to do, and it's a subject that I have talked to Brian Flowers and Jason Turner quite a bit, and that subject is bait and lures, and the different mindsets and the different thought processes. Man, that's hot. And I'll just start off like this. I was talking to an old boy, and he's a fur trapper, just like myself, and he's also a wildlife control ADC specialist, just like myself. So as we was talking about attractants, if you will, now I'll just say it this way. He buys a lot of products off of me, and he uses those products, and I'm talking about a lot, and he uses them a lot in his wildlife control business. But when we got talking about trapping, fur trapping, I asked what he uses for his attractants there, and his answer was kind of bewildering. And he said, whatever I got on hand, or he'll, he says he's got a couple other things that he uses or what have you. And I said to him, why, you buy a lot of bait off of me. Why don't you use that bait and lures in your fur trapping also? And he said, it's because that's for my wildlife control work. And I said, are you doing good with my baits and lures in your wildlife control? He said, absolutely. That's why I keep buying it. But you don't use it in your fur trapping. No. Do you use it in your ADC work type, predator type stuff? Oh yeah. But you don't use it in your fur trapping. No. Why? Well, it's for ADC work. This is one of those bewilderments, if you will, that I get every once in a while. Because we as humans, and we all do it, I do it myself, we get into these man, it's still hot. We get into these mindsets. And we really, to be honest, we cannot tell you why we're in these certain mindsets, but we get into them, and when we get into them, man, we just can't get out of them. I can't tell you how many people I've talked to, and they said, well, it's an ADC bait and lure. It says on the label. So some of them. I said, but the other line of baits and lures says TRAPLINE. He said, well, the ADC baits and lures is only for summertime work, right? And I'll say, no. Don't we do ADC and wildlife control all year long? Yeah. Then why is it only for summertime? I know, I just thought that. People ask me, well, if your baits and lures work all year long, why do you call it ADC baits and lures? And I say marketing. Marketing, what do you mean? Listen, catching an animal is catching an animal. Bait to use to catch the animal is bait that you use to catch the animal. All right? Now you may use different quantities, or you may use different types of baits in different types of seasons, but just because it says ADC doesn't mean it's only for a certain time. It may be an ADC winter bait, it may be an ADC summer bait, but it's still going to catch animals in fur trapping, winter or summer, depending on what the bait was made for. I marketed ADC on those types of baits for one reason only, and I'm telling you flat out. It's how I opened up the video. ADC wildlife control guys and gals, they will put in a $200, $300, $400, $500 order without batting an eye. Fur trapper, 1 ounce bottle of lure costs $7, and when he's handing you the $7, it's like ripping his heart out of him. It's that simple. Now you're probably thinking I'm going to start pushing my baits and lures, and I'm not. That's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm using my baits and lures as an example, but that's not what I'm doing here. What I'm saying is, we as trappers, fur trappers, we get ourselves into these bottleneck thoughts that we can't allow ourselves to expand or to try new things. There's another post that we was talking about over on one of the Facebook pages. I think it was one of the wildlife control pages. And we got into the discussion on baits and lures and what have you. And there's essentially two types or two categories of bait and lure. There's trapline or smell. All right. And then there is what we call ADC, or taste and smell. And those of you who know me know that I started making baits and lures in 1987 because I needed a bait or a lure for cage straps at that point that was going to work, because the smell type or trapline baits and lures that I had been using wasn't cutting the deal. I wasn't catching raccoons and skunks and such in cages like I needed to. And I couldn't figure out why. And I go into all that in my cage strapping training courses. But essentially, that cage strap is a negative. Not a negative that they're particularly afraid of, but it is a negative. In other words, that animal knows it's an enclosure or it's a tight area. All right. Everybody says, well, that's why I use double doors. Well, yeah, I know. You can. Essentially the same thing, though. Because I've done all my research with my videos, and I've done all that stuff with my cage strapping training, and I've found the same thing. You have both doors open, the animal still reacts the same way. He may be able to see through. He may be able to see the other ends open, but he still acts the same way, or she, or it, or whatever. It's the confinement. It's the close. It's good putting themselves into a place that wasn't there, that's there now, and it's a slight negative. Now they're not afraid of it. They're just cautious of it. So I needed bait and lure back in the 80s, and I started trying to make baits and lures 82-ish, 85-ish. Took me a while. To come up with a bait and lure that worked. I had a lot of stuff that would work, but they wouldn't last. It wouldn't last 10 days in a trap. It'd go bad, or it would change. You know, if you had it 6 months, it would be a totally different product. And that's part of bait lure manufacturing. Anybody can come up with something that the animal's going to like to eat. It's trying to come up with a bait or a lure that is going to be that the animal likes to smell or the animal likes to eat, and it's going to say the same from the time it's done for 20 years in the bottle. As long as the bottles ain't open, it's going to be good, you know. Left open, bottle left open. So the two categories that we're talking about: smell, and then taste and smell. Now, what's a smell bait? A smell bait is going to be a bait or a lure. It could be both. Okay, that is going to entice the animal to come to it by the odor. That could be urine. That could be a droppings. That could be a rotted glands. That could be rotted and stabilized glands. That could be a piece of meat that is got other ingredients in it for attraction and been stabilized and stopped, but it's no longer an edible piece of meat. You got my drift? You tracking me? That's what they all say to me now. Are you tracking me? First time I heard that, I said, "I'm a what? Are you tracking me?" Anyway, those baits and lures are made for what? And I know I've talked about this in other videos, but it seems people just don't get it. They just don't, they don't understand what I'm saying here. Those baits and lures that are made for smell, to attract the animal because of smell, are usually very strong. They usually have a what we call a reach out power, and it's a strong power. And what happens is the animal gets to that bait or lure, and if it is a food type bait or lure for smell, as soon as they get a taste of it, it's bitter or nasty, or they don't want to eat it again. People say, "I don't believe that." Well, I love coffee. You love coffee. Speaking of which, it's cooling down a little bit now. I like coffee. Wawa coffee. What the heck's a Wawa? You gotta come to the Northeast for that. Anyway, I like coffee. But if I put twice the amount of coffee in the pot and brew it, I ain't gonna like it so much. Oh, it smells great cooking or brewing, percolating, whatever. Oh boy, it smells good. Can't wait to get in that. Can't wait to grab it, take a bit, take a taste of it. It's like, oh my goodness. Oh, take the hair off my chest if I had any. You understand what I'm saying here? So your smell baits and lures are made to pull the animal to that spot, but it's made they're formulated so that you catch the animal before they get to the bait and the lure. Your taste baits and lures, or your taste and smell baits and lures, ADC, are going to be baits and lures that have not only a really good smell, but they also have a really good taste. And they're made so that the animal can get a little bit of it, like it, and go back for more. Again, I don't know how many people actually started making taste baits and lures before 1987. I don't know of too many. I'm sure there was. I'm not saying I was the first. I'm just saying I don't know too many, or I would have been using their baits and lures. But that's the reason I started making them in 1987. That first line of ADC baits and lures. It wasn't for the ADC to sell to ADC people. It was made for me and me alone, and my employees that was working for me at that time, because we needed bait and lure that the animals would go into a cage strap, and we needed bait and lure that they would eat and go into the cage strap. But if they wasn't there for 5 or 6 days, it was going to hold up in the heat, rain, snow, sleet, what have you. Other forms of taste baits: cheesecake, fried chicken, sardines, cat food, dog food, cupcakes, taste lures, vanilla, honey, maple syrup, strawberry syrup, anise in the right formulation is a great example of a taste smell. It's also a great example of because if anise can be nasty in too strong of a quantity. So when we're getting back to using baits and lures and the block that we have, we tend to want to categorize everything, and we want to put things into a category. So just like this old gentleman that I was talking to, and a few other people, like I said, Brian Flowers and Jason Turner and I have talked about this topic many times. Just because it says ADC, and it says ADC on it, or wildlife control, most of the time that is going to be what we call a taste, smell, bait, and or lure. Why? Because we're using dog proofs, we're using cage straps, we're using things in which we need to get the animal into a negative position or negative tool. Cage straps, a dog proof is stuck out in the open where that just doesn't seem right. Whatever, you understand what I'm saying. A negative that the animal is going to be cautious going into, or working, or doing whatever. When you get into dog proofs, people say, well, that's not negative. Well, yeah, it is. You just don't see it. You know, a lot of raccoons reject the dog proof. Put a camera on it, you'll see that. But more than that dog proof, you need the animal to get down in there and pull up on that trigger, and contrary to what everybody thinks, they don't all pull on that trigger. People say, yes, they do. I say, no, they don't. How many times they stick their stinking paw into a hole in the ground and grab a hold of a root? You don't see them ripping the root out, do you? Anyway, sorry. I had that conversation yesterday with a guy. Anyway, getting back to it. When you're talking about a dog proof or something like that, a cage trap or something like that, you want a bait that they get a little bit on their paw, they lick it, they like it, they tear right into it again and keep going back more and more and more. And the more they go into it, the more they're going to take a chance on pulling that trigger up, or get a chance on pushing that pan down in the trap, cage trap, or push your way through that conibear box or killer trap type thing. All right. Now, your baits for smell, your trapline baits, can be used the same way. You can use them, but you just got to understand what the focus is. You've got to catch them before they get a taste of it, because if they get a taste of it, they're probably not going to want to come back or reach back down into it. And I'll give you an example on here. This is really going to blow your mind. And again, Brian Flowers and myself and Jason Turner again, we've all talked about this many, many times. I believe both of those I've mentioned are the same as me. We like to have 3 odors at a set. Except for my cage traps, I got 5 to 7 odors. But when we're talking about a dog-proof trap, I want 3 odors there. I want a bait odor or a food odor or something like that down in the cage, down in the dog-proof. I want a food, sweet, enticing, curiosity smell on the lip of the trap. And then I'm going to have a call lure to get them to the spot, meaning to entice them that 3 to 5 feet. I'd rather just pull them 3 feet if I got to. I'd rather pull them no feet. I'd rather just make them bump their nose right into that dog proof. But if they don't, 3 feet is about what I like to pull them. Sometimes you can pull them 5 feet if the dog proof is upwind of it. And I've got a lot of research to show all that stuff too. Anyway, I got those 3 odors there, and what I've done with those 3 odors, and a lot of times that call lure is going to be a gland lure, or it's going to be urine. A lot of times I'm going to use bobcat urine as a call. Bobcat urine or bobcat glands. Bobcat glands to a dog proof or a raccoon? Yep. Why would you do that? Because I can get $300 to $500 for that sucker in the wildlife control field. That's why. Am I going to do that in the fur trapping game with a dog proof? Yep. Why? It's only a $3 raccoon. And I only need a cap full. So $7, if I didn't make it, a $7 1 ounce bottle of lure could probably catch me 20 or 30 raccoons if I'm doing everything I need to do. Maybe 30's pushing it. Let's say 20. So that gland lure or that urine is the attention getter. It catches their curiosity. It catches their mind, their brain. Oh, what's that? Oh, whoa. He takes a step, and then all of a sudden now he's getting the lure off the lip of the trap. That smells pretty good. He gets over to the trap, takes a lick, and hey, that tastes pretty good. Now he's got the smell coming out of the trap. He reaches his paw down in there and grabs a hunk of it and brings it out and licks it. I got videos on my YouTube and on my Facebook page of raccoons just digging deep for Banana Supreme. I mean, just going hard, just going hard, just going hard. You've also seen guys with using candy corn or dog food or whatever, another food bait down in that dog proof, and you see that coon just shoveling it in, man. Just a fat man at a smorgasbord, man. That's why I use 3 different odors. But it's only a $3 coon out in the fur field. Yeah, $3 plus the glands, plus the skull. And then if you can get a meat market, plus the meat. We want to put ourselves into these categories because of human nature. We like to put ourselves into categories. We like to be absolute perfection. That's why we like to talk about how we have to do this exact thing over and over and over again, and sometimes we do. You hear it a lot in foot trap bedding the foot. You have to bed that trap exactly this way. The truth of that statement is this: you have to make sure that trap is bedded tight and hard. How you bed that so it don't wobble is not an exact science. It is whatever you do, however you do it, to get it done is what it is. Now, people who are perfectionists, people who are absolute, people who are mechanical machines are probably cussing me right now. But I'm telling you what, it's just like hanging a cable restraint. I can show you 5 different ways to hang that cable restraint to catch a coyote or a fox. 5 different ways, right off the get-go. Bam, bam, bam. I have 2 that I use the most. Actually 3. I have 3 that I use the most. But there's 5 more different ways. And one of those ways is a split stick. Do I like a split stick? I'd rather not, but if I ain't got no number 11 wire, or I ain't got no 14 gauge wire, or I'm in a bad predicament, then a split stick is going to get her done. Oh man. Oh yeah, I gotta check some sets up here. I'm gonna have to get out of the truck. You know, I had a person say to me, you know, Jonesy, you say a lot on these videos, but you don't really come out with anything concrete hard every stinking time. And I said, nope, I don't. They said, why not? And I say, I come out with a lot of information to make you think, so you come up with your own concrete. I don't care if you're using quick set or standard mortar. As long as you get her done. Thoughts from the office. Redneck Sprite Outdoors. I'll talk to y'all later.